guys, this video talks about how to divide by estimating quotients. So if you're following along in McGraw-Hill, we're in chapter 3. We're really starting to introduce division before we get to long division to understand what it is we're doing. There's so many different ways you can solve. And we want to show you an example of how to divide by estimating. Now, what's the point of doing this? It's really just to help you go back to finding fact families and how to round. And if you can estimate a quotient, it might help you when you're really solving to see how close you were to your rounded answer. And it is a standard to know how to do and know how to estimate quotients. So let's figure out what they're asking us to do first. So to estimate means to round. And quotients are answers to a division problem. So they want us to round the numbers by finding an estimated answer to a division problem. That's what it means when they want you to estimate quotients. So let's say we had the following problem. What if we had 208 divided by 8? So your goal is to find numbers that are fact families. Okay? Because if you can find a fact family, it'll go in evenly. Okay? You don't want to work with numbers, random numbers. First of all, you need to round properly, and you want to round to a fact family. So that means you might round up, you might round down. So 208 divided by 8. Well, if you look at the 8 is really close to a 10. 8 would round up to a 10. And I would want to change this number 2 to something that would be a fact family with 10. Well, what if I rounded 208 down to 200 instead of going up to 300? Because 208 is closer to 200. Do you see that I could use our quotient, our patterns that we did with division, our division pattern? Do you remember? So what you do is you can cross cancel equal zeros and then divide what's left. 20 divided by 1 is 20. So what we did is we rounded it to 200 divided by 10, which is 20. The answer to that division problem is 20. So you might be asking, okay, what did I just do? What's the answer then if this was in your book? The answer and what they want you to do is first round both the dividend and the divisor in order to get a fact family division problem, and then solve it. That's all you're doing. And we were able to round it to numbers that had powers of 10 so that we could cross cancel zeros and make it easier for us. We were still solving 200 divided by 10, but because these were powers of 10, we were able to use that zeros trick from the previous lesson. Let's go ahead and do another one. What if I had 395 divided by 4? Okay, 395 and 4. That's not a fact family. I don't know this off the top of my head. So what we're going to do is we're just going to show your teacher, show whoever, show your paper. You're just going to round. Show us how do you round, and then solve it using a pattern. Well, 395 would round up to 400. Do I need to change the 4? Or does 4 belong to a fact family with 400? Think of your patterns that we just did. If I bring down this 4, I could use my patterns trick to divide this mentally. And that's what your goal is. When you're estimating quotients, you want to be able to round it to something that you can do mentally where you don't have to write out a huge algorithm with the steps of does McDonald's sell burgers. Your goal is to not have to do that when you estimate quotients, okay? So keep that in mind, and that would be really helpful when you're trying to round. I only needed to round this one because I can go ahead and do this mentally. Remember our patterns trick. If I go back 1 0 at a time, so if I took away 1 0, it would be 40 divided by 4. If you know what that is, awesome. If not, take away another 0 and it would be 4 divided by 4. Well, what is 4 divided by 4? It's 1. So now go back to get back to your original problem using the patterns. The pattern was the answer goes down, it goes to each one, and then you just count how many zeros you need to add into your answer. There's 1 0 here. So 40 divided by 4 is 10. So include the 1, right, from our basic math fact, but now we have 2 zeros. So the answer is 100. So this would be our final answer for this original problem if they said estimate quotients to find your answer. We rounded it to 400, we kept the 4, we use our patterns trick in order to find the answer, and the answer is 100. And that's all it's asking us to do. Let's go ahead and look at another one. Let's do 850 divided by 9. Okay, so always work with the bigger number first because we might be able to keep that 9, and hopefully you can see that that is what we're going to do. So keep the division sign, we're still dividing. 850. Can 850 round to a power of 10 number that would work with 9? What if I rounded 850 up to 900? Do you think you could do this one? Absolutely. What's 9 divided by 9? 1. And how many zeros are there? 2. So your answer is 100. Done. Let's do one more. What if I had 230 divided by 7? Okay, so can you round this one to something reasonable that works with something that works with 7 or works with something around 7? Well, 230 is pretty close to, remember, we want to find fact families. Well, think about the 7. 7 is a prime number. The only facts with 7 that go into 7 is 7 times 1 is 7, and that's it. Nothing else multiplies to 7. So I want something else that might be a little bit easier. What about 8? What if I rounded up just to an 8? What fact family would I need right here? 23 is not a part of a fact family with 8. What about 24? So you need to keep the 0. So I rounded 10 up. I rounded from 230 up to 240. But do you see that I created a fact family? 24 and 8 is a fact family. So 24 divided by 8 is 3. And then include your 0. And our answer is 30. So there are different ways to round, but your goal is to round to a fact family. And your fact family is listed here in the equation. But don't forget to include the zeros that were from the original problem. All right, you guys, I hope that helps you out when you are using division patterns to estimate quotients. And remember, your goal is to just round to find an easier problem in order to solve mentally. All right, you guys, be sure to check out the other videos for estimating quotient examples and, of course, subscribe.